Okay, so I've gotten a lot of questions about how specifically I animate, like what's my process behind it, not just what programs I'm using. So I thought I would get into it. There's a TikTok that's a little bit briefer, but I'm gonna go over it in full here. For my most recent TikTok animations, I've kind of got into a rhythm which is a little bit backwards, but it works. I use Procreate and I storyboard all the camera changes and basic key poses, and then I go over with lines and colors to keyframe. Afterwards, I create lip sync on top of the keys by drawing in each mouth position and copying and pasting them where they'll be needed. I don't do anything with timing since Procreate doesn't allow me to add audio into the timeline, but I add that in later when I go through editing. Once that's done, I use the warp and distort tool to create cheated in-betweens, and I add subtle movements or smear frames when needed. This makes it a lot easier to crank out animations once a week, and I probably wouldn't be able to do it consistently if I didn't cheat as much as I did. I do try to do at least one fully animated scene or part in the video just because it's fun, but they're pretty minimal. For complex animations in Procreate, I board out all the key positions like before, and then I in-between them during the sketch animation. This makes it much easier to add secondary movement and more complex actions because I can always erase and edit without having to worry about clean line art. I can also adjust positions to make the timing match up a bit more, which is more important than it is with something like a TikTok animation because the movements are so minimal. I then do the lines and colors on top of these in a group, and I will often put the background inside of the group as well so I don't have to set it to a background every single time I want a scene change. Afterwards, I import all of this into Premiere and I align the timing and the lip sync and add camera movements if needed. For Adobe animations, like the work that I do for Jaden, even though the stuff that I do for Jaden is mostly keyframes and occasionally storyboards, I start out pretty similar with just storyboarding out the key positions. The difference comes in that I line the keys and I do in-betweens without a sketch animation or the poses in between. This is because it goes quite a bit faster if I skip the step of having to sketch out every single in-between individually and just eyeball it. It's also a lot more productive to do in Adobe because Adobe allows me to copy and paste and refuse assets without blurring or sacrificing line quality like I do in Procreate. I can also use symbols much easier, which I can't do in Procreate without going way out of my way. Using symbols allows me to repeat a small loop action and move it and adjust it as I like, so I can put it on top of a non-looped action and make the non-looped action look a lot more fluid than it actually is. I can also time lip sync correctly the first time instead of having to edit it in Premiere because Adobe allows for the use of audio in the timeline. This also gives me the opportunity to add more interesting edits in post, like filters, color correction, and more complex camera movement. When I'm doing camera movement in my Procreate animations, I really have to worry about losing the quality whenever I zoom in because it's a set amount of pixels. Whereas if I'm doing something in Adobe Animate, which is a vector program, I can zoom in as far as I want without having to make it all blurry. That is the main reason that I used Adobe to create the Soldier Poet King meme, since it played with scales and loops so much. It was literally all loops. I did do the illustrations in Procreate though. I've also experimented with many other programs, which I highly recommend doing as well, because it gives you an opportunity to experiment and create your own process, as you do not have to follow mine. This is just what I personally do. I think my favorite one that I've tried recently was Core Animator for the iPad, since it lets you import pieces from Procreate and create puppets with them. And that's all I have to say about that, I guess. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you found this helpful. I'm not exactly a professional animator. I'm really only doing this as freelance, and I've never been classically trained. I've only been self-taught, so I'm not sure how good exactly this advice is, but I hope it at least answers the questions that I've gotten.